edition. I'm Ollie Jackson, and I'm Owen Jill. On today's topics, we will be evaluating the effects of antisocial behaviour on the society and strategies to reduce it. Now, over to Josh Stevens, who had a lovely interview with a nice woman called Liz from the Torbay Youth Offending Team. What strategies are in place to reduce antisocial behaviour?
In Torbay, it's been very much led on a needs basis, so that where there are hotspots of antisocial behaviour, that's where agencies will look at. So the strategy mostly will be a multi-agency approach around being led by the police and the antisocial behaviour team. So it'll be one strategy. We'll all agree to a protocol about how it should be dealt with in a legal way to get offences to court. But before that happens, there'll be a multi-agency approach how each agency, exactly like the police, housing, and the defending team, will look at how we can reduce the antisocial behaviour in a particular area. From my point of view as parent who work with the defending team, my job is to go in to a household where there is antisocial behaviour being perpetrated by young people, and to give the parents strategies to look at their children's behaviour, to look at how parents are dealing with that behaviour, and see how we can together we can reduce that.
Okay, is there any restrictions on strategies that you'd like to put in place?
I personally, and this is my personal opinion, I think antisocial behaviour going through the courts should only be with young people probably 13 and over, and we deal here with from 10 to 17-year-olds, and anything below that I would tend to see as more of a welfare issue that needs to be dealt with through more of a multi-agency approach, and not with sort of fast-tracking anybody to court. We have had an instance of antisocial behaviour orders as well as given to young children, and that just is not acceptable to me, and I think that pretty much would be the same throughout most services dealing with antisocial behaviour. That's an issue that would be within the family, that needs to be dealt with within the family and not necessarily taken to court.
Okay, what do you think influences antisocial behaviour, and are there any ways that we can stop it?
Well, I've just been doing a bit of work with police around an area in Torquay and an area in Brixton where there's a high incidence of antisocial behaviour, and every time there will be, there's nothing to do. That always comes up, but there's nothing to do. But I think that's an age-old problem with teenagers, and isn't an answer in itself, obviously, and needs to be unpicked again in a multi-agency way around being led more by the young people about what they want, and then putting their services in, rather than going in and telling people what they need. I think there's a lot of things that influence antisocial behaviour. People would say it's lack of respect for authority, lack of things to do, nuclear families. There isn't a family network, there isn't a support network where families have to talk to each other anymore. You haven't got the matriarchal figure on an estate who will tell the kids off. There's a lot of things that influence, but mostly I think it is boredom, and also I think it is something that young people go through. Everybody at some stage sits on somebody else's garden wall and causes a nuisance. It's a perception of what is antisocial behaviour, and I think we're not quite as we tend to demonise young people more now and look at them as a nuisance.
Okay, thanks a lot for your time.
That's all right.
Welcome back to the second part of today's One Show. In this part we are going to evaluate the initiative which was discussed in our interview. I've explained in our interview from the Youth Offending Team, the woman talked about the multi-agency approach as one of the main strategies to deal with this type of antisocial behaviour. I feel there are many disadvantages and advantages of these strategies. I feel the advantages are they can get more work done efficiently, they use a range of expertise, they can share out the workload, and it talks to the families direct, such as you go to the families and try and stop antisocial behaviour happening. Adam, what do you feel like the disadvantages of the strategies are?
Well, I think that the disadvantages are that it takes up a lot of time to explain that every young person goes through this stage at some point, which to a degree I believe in, because
Well, you know, when you're a kid, you have that time when you kick footballs around in the street late at night. You know, you have a laugh with your friends on the streets. You know, every lad does it when they're that age. So, you know, there's a bit of leeway that you need to do there.
I agree with that point. However, there is some children that take that too far. I feel that the consequence of their actions could lead to an ASBO.
Yeah, in such cases, ASBO can be effective with the children that are, you know, not at the top of the range, that will most likely to go on to become future criminals. But yeah, however, with younger offenders, I think they might just see this as a reward because they can just say, yeah, look, I've got an ASBO, you know, it makes me the big man around the local estate and, you know, things like that.
So in conclusion, I feel that this strategy can work effectively because it gets multi-agencies involved and they all get on the front and get the children listening and really they overcome them and try and not get them ASBO.
Now, over to Chris, who's interviewing a member of the police force.
Which of the campaigns that you're currently part of, which one do you think is the most successful at preventing antisocial behaviour?
Well, since the sort of implementation of neighbourhood policing teams, when you've got the neighbourhood beat manager, police officers, and police community support officers working with specials, the main role of them is to work with the community, and one of their targets is to reduce antisocial behaviour. So with the impact of the neighbourhood policing teams has been really positive, in the fact that you've seen ASB reduce every year. My role at the moment, as I've spoken to you all before, is I work with a street-based team, and within that project we've got several projects where we look at football to reduce antisocial behaviour, fitness projects, but the street-based team working in identified areas where antisocial behaviour occurs takes it, you know, straight away. They'll go into that area and they will work with young people that are getting involved in ASB to reduce it. So I would say the success of the neighbourhood teams and the street teams working in partnerships with all the different agencies such as housing, you've got the council, you've got the youth offending team and the antisocial behaviour team, and working together is a big effect.
Do you think that low-level antisocial behaviour is just a stage that young people go through when they're growing up?
I would argue that, yeah. I think that with that question, I think you're definitely right. I think I'd be very surprised if any young person, including anyone on your course, and even your tutors, could turn around and say that they've never done anything minor that could be constituted minor antisocial behaviour. I'll put my hand up and say I have. So, and you know, when we can talk a minute about the antisocial behaviour process. But when you look at it, what you don't see, and statistics-wise within the media, is I think in Torbay we've got something like the very first stage of the antisocial behaviour process when you get a visit or a letter. I think they've got a success rate of 80%. So those young people or adults that get the first stage, 80% of them don't pop up again on the antisocial behaviour escalation ladder. So I would say that a lot of young people and adults, young people, do some minor stuff, but a lot of them will grow out of it at some point.
Cool. Have the police force in Torbay seen a considerable drop in antisocial behaviour since the community project started?
Yeah, when I started 4 years ago, that was, you know, the sort of first start of the neighbourhood policing teams and working in partnership with other agencies. I think every year they've seen a reduction in antisocial behaviour, but not only that, we talk to the community and we ask them to report antisocial behaviour as well. We encourage them to support antisocial behaviour. So in theory, you'd think that you'd see more reports. Every year there has been a reduction. This Friday and Saturday I was working, and normally you think you'd have between the hours of at least 6 to 2 in the morning, you think that you see quite a few antisocial behaviour reports. What you see in the media is you think that you would see it, especially youth-related side of things. I think we had 0 reports this Friday and Saturday, which for me is impressive. And again, it's just, you know, I think the community now are aware that neighbourhood teams and the police and all the agencies are really working to reduce antisocial behaviour. and it's a big priority for Torbay.
And as a PCSO, do you feel that the young offenders show you as much respect as they would to a police constable?
In my role now, I work youth related. I work with the youth offending team. I work with young people. That's what my role is all about. For me, I've got a very good rapport, but because I do a lot of activities, they see positives from me all the time. I'd say PCSOs get to spend, if they're attached to an area, which I was for the first year and a half, I built up a good rapport with the young people because you're seeing them on a daily basis. You're trying to do projects, positive projects and diverting activities for them, and they see you in a different light. I think it all depends on the skills of every, PCSO and the police officers. What type of skills have they got working with young people? Some have got really strong skills, but if they're not so strong, they'll be good in other areas. I'd like to think that you ask most young people, they'd probably be quite positive about the PCSO that they know in their area.
Can you think of any negative effects and positive effects of having a PCSO in the local community?
It's a hard question to answer because obviously I want it to come across positive for PCSOs. I'd say the positives are getting to know your community, the high visibility presence, and also that direct link between you can say all the different aspects of the community. So if you've got the young people, you've got the sort of older generation, between them and the police, because you're trying to break down barriers. Sometimes you can be a bit of a middleman, or lady, whatever way you want to interpret it. But I do think with the introduction of PCSOs, just being able to talk and gain intelligence for us, because everything nowadays is community intelligence led, so that's been a real big plus. But I imagine if you ask the community, just seeing a presence on the street is one of the big pluses. One of the negatives, which I was speaking to you about earlier, is I think for young people, gone are the days where you could get away with things. And when we talked about minor ASB earlier on, because the neighbourhood team, especially the PCSOs, know young people so well by descriptions or even nicknames, I really do think nowadays it's hard to get away with anything, which could be looked at as a young person, you probably see it as a negative, but I do think in the long run it's a positive.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Back by our show. This part of the show will be evaluating the strategies that PCSOs use. We have our special guest here, Chris Shepherd, to help us through this.
Hello, Ollie. Today I interviewed Jamie, who's a local PCSO. I found a lot of information about his role and what he does for the community. A good part that PCSO does is that it's community focused, and he seems to have a one-to-one respect with the people that he's working with, which really works in the local community as Torquay, because it's such a small community. However, I think that in the bigger cities it might not work as well because there's more people and you might not be able to get that one-to-one personal service. Also, he mentioned about a really good scheme he's doing, which is a neighbourhood policing team, and they get together and do other activities like football, basketball, to get kids off the streets and really involved in doing other things and causing antisocial behaviour. I found out a lot of information. Was there anything from the video that you've kind of pointed out that was good or bad?
Yeah, I just thought he explained that it was very cost effective for the PCSOs. Sometimes they're not respected by youth, but in a way they have processed this very well, the antisocial behaviour, as there's been no reports of antisocial behaviour this weekend. So that shows that this strategy is working, as he even showed us that there's been an 80% success rate every time they've gone and helped out either a family or individual.
Yeah, he also mentioned that when you get an antisocial behaviour order, it kind of works in stages. So if you've done a kind of like a petty crime, you get a first letter, which basically explains that if you go from this stage, you're going to go on to another 4 stages. And once people get that first stage, 80% of people stop and leave it at that stage, meaning that they don't continue on to finally get an antisocial behaviour order. So obviously that system's working well as well. He also mentioned about every year there's a reduction, which is obviously really good for the local community. But he also mentioned slightly about victims and how the high visibility policing, so bringing more PCSOs, more police officers out onto the street, really makes the public feel kind of safe and they're more aware of the police being there. They get supported for notifying of youths performing antisocial behaviour. So if they ring up to the police station and say there's someone down the local park performing antisocial behaviour, then they don't just get ignored, they'll send someone up there. So this really gives the public a good feeling and a good effect of what they're doing is actually working.
I feel that as well. So in conclusion, I feel that PCSOs is a very effective strategy as it works, especially in the smaller community of Torquay, as the antisocial behaviour has decreased due to the PCSOs on the street dealing with antisocial behaviour. And I think it's been very effective. Do you feel like this?
Yes, I completely agree with that, Josh.
Okay, thank you Chris for helping me with this, and goodbye for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
I love the one show.
I play the one show.
Yeah.
The one show is the number one show.
1, 2, 3, 4,